In yesterday's episode at BrainStormAcres, Irene set up her glass bench and started making pins. Today, she demonstrates more about making glass.
So what we're doing by that cooling down and heating up is we're removing the stress from the glass. When you have glass, there's always stress in it. And one of the things that makes it break is that stress. What I'm doing is I'm doing a repair here. This glass decided it was going to droop too far off the end, so I simply smushed it. And now I'm rolling it back in here to turn it into a ball. Glass has a lot of surface tension to it, and you can use that to your advantage the same way as you can honey. If anybody wants to practice this without using glass, take some honey on a toothpick and play with it. When you get a blob of it there, you can roll it around and you gives you a feel for what this sort of work is like. You have to be constantly doing feedback between your hand and your eyeballs and deciding at what point you roll something and at what point you don't. And it's pretty easy with something like honey. If you screw up, the worst thing you have to do is clean off the countertop. If you screw up with this, you wind up with a blob of glass. Now, I have a steel countertop here, a sheet of metal to keep setting the wood on fire. The torch here is about 2,500 degrees, and the glass, therefore, when it comes out, is about that temperature, or slightly less. And it's enough to char wood. That's not a big deal under the circumstances, but you really don't want to set the place on fire. I have had... there's things that happen sometimes when you do this kind of work that just, you laugh in retrospect. At the time, it wasn't funny. I had an envelope, a paper envelope, nowhere near where I was working. It was like over here somewhere, way around the corner. And it had gold foil and silver foil in it. Now, you can use both gold foil and silver foil on glass beads. And it's particularly decorative bead, blah, 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 blah. And it's cool and neat. And I don't do it a whole lot because gold foil and silver foil are expensive. And a lot of times people are cheap and don't want to pay the price. And I'm sorry, if I make it, I have to charge the fair price for it. I can't afford to give it away. It's not a hobby. I had a piece of glass, and I couldn't tell you what color it was. I had a piece of glass do what we call spit. And what that means is from thermal shock, it exploded, and it threw a piece of 2,500 degree glass that away. So this piece of 2,500 degree glass takes off, and I always look around when a piece really takes off, especially if it's a bigger piece. And in this case, it was a bigger piece, and I didn't realize how big it was. I thought most of it had hit the table, because there's always a bunch of broken glass here, which I use for decorative bits later. And all of a sudden, I smell smoke, and I'm like, that's not good. So, and I look over, and the envelope, which is full of gold and silver leaf, is on fire. So, needless to say, I grabbed it and put it out. But somewhere here, not right next to where I'm working, there is an envelope that is missing a corner, that is full of glass, that is full of gold and silver leaf. It was just one of those moments you think to yourself, there's this whole area, this whole huge area, and where does this piece of 2,500 degree molten glass decide to land? On the one piece of stuff over here that could actually catch on fire. And usually it's a little tidier over here. Right now I've been doing too many things at once, and I do have several pieces of paper. They're probably mostly lists, which are not important. I mean, they're important, but they're not important now because they've probably already been filled. So I should probably get them out, actually. So everything else here, like this, for instance, that's my little piece of paper, it gives me the colors that I need to make today. Now, I'm not going to sit here and bore you while I make 300 nail pins. Because that's probably, I don't know, I might only make 150 today, you never can tell. But that's about how many pins I'll make today. I've taken an inventory in the house where I keep my stash of veil pens, and I'll have to take a picture later. Even before I put these out there, it's still pretty good. Like I have trays that I take to events with veil pens sitting in them, and I have to admit they're arranged so that the colors show nicely, and I always sit them in the front of the shop where the light will shine through them. Part of that is actually so that people can tell what the colors are. A lot of these are transparent colors, like the cobalt blue is transparent, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it here, but I'll try and get to a shot of a cobalt blue piece. It's one of those beautiful blue glowing sort of colors, and a lot of people really like it. It's been a popular color since, I don't know, 2500 BC or something. So as soon as they figured out how to make it, they loved it. And there's different colors. There's transparents, and there's translucents, and then there's solids, but blue has always been a big deal. It's an easy color to make in comparison to a lot of colors. It's also fairly stable. There are colors that are a lot harder to deal with. Preheating is not a guarantee that it won't blow up, but it really does help. I think you can see the end of that is red, and then it goes to, it's like a dog head, and goes to a lighter color down here. This is what they call a striped glass, and that means that if I fiddle with it right, I can get it to turn that red color. But if I don't fiddle with it, I wind up with that color, which is much less exciting. Okay, let me show you a hat pin. It's the same concept. All I'm doing is preheating my glass. Now, with a hat pin, because you're working with something much larger, I do it a little bit different. With the small veil pins, I can just kind of let the end of this slump a tiny bit. There's no such thing as a wrong way to do this, as long as you're making it look the way you want it to look. Some people will soften the end of the glass, heat this, and wind it on. I don't usually do that. I usually slump the end of the glass to create at least a pea-sized blob. I'm sure there's a technical word for blob, but most glass workers I know call it a blob. So it's good enough for the big boys, it's good enough for me. I should say big boys and girls, because I have worked with a couple of very well-known professional glass workers in classes, and they both called it a blob. Anyway, you could call it a gather if you wanted to. Okay. Now I'm just putting the gather at the end of the pin that's going to become the head of the pin for the pin. And there, I've slayed it on. And now all I'm going to do is round it out and make it look right. Case I had a really pretty round blob to start with, or gather if we want to be fancy. And there we go. I'm spinning it. I'm not holding it still. If I was holding it still, it would droop. But I do not want it to droop because it's moderately round. It's not perfect. It's not machine round. There's a chance that the stainless steel is not machine round. It could be slightly bent, which means when I roll it in my hands, it won't come out right. Now, that's now cool enough that I can stick this in the kiln. And there we go. And basically that's it. Ta-da! That is how I make veil pins and hat pins. Now, obviously, that is not the way I make metal-topped veil pins, but that's a company secret. So, yeah, we did the research. My husband was lucky enough to come across a professional in France who had done academician who had done some major studies He provided my husband with a 14th century manuscript in French. Fortunately, my husband reads French, I do not. I'm lucky I can get through a French menu. And the rest is history. Some experimentation, and I won't say we have it down to a science, but we have it down to a pseudoscience. So, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this little peek into my world of glass, and I'll be sure to get a still or two of the some of the hat pins and some of the veil pins in the light so that you can see them better. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell for notifications when we do more videos. We're going to be doing some gardening videos pretty quick. I just have a couple of orders I need to get out this week. Wholesale order, and also an order for a friend who's ordered some custom hat pins. So I do custom work as well as wholesale and stuff out of my own store and my own shop. So yeah, fortunately the colonial reenactors have discovered me lately, so they've been keeping me busy. I'm good with that. Have a great day. Until later, bye. Hit that bell notification for... Hit that note. Oh.